The first light arrives gently over Rome, soft and unhurried, spilling across the 7 hills like something whispered rather than announced. The sky shifts in delicate gradations from charcoal to pale violet, then to the faintest blush of amber. The city below lies quiet still, wrapped in the cool breath of early morning, its marble temples and tiled rooftops catching the first tender glow. Somewhere in the distance, a cock crows, the sound stretching thin across the stillness. The Tiber moves in its ancient course, its surface glassy and calm, reflecting the waking heavens above. Along its banks, mist clings low to the reeds, drifting in slow currents that mirror the river's lazy flow. The air is fresh and faintly damp, carrying with it the scent of stone, earth, and water. This is the Rome that belongs to silence, the Rome that exists before the city remembers itself.
In these earliest moments, the streets remain empty. The broad avenues that will soon pulse with voices and movement are now only shadows and echoes. The cobblestones, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, are cool beneath the dawn. A stray dog trots quietly past a shuttered shop, pausing to sniff the air before moving on. A lone figure, cloaked and hooded, walks with measured steps toward the Forum, their sandals making soft, rhythmic sounds against the stone. The city is not asleep, but neither is it awake. It rests in that liminal space between dreaming and rising, a place where time feels suspended, where the weight of history seems lighter, softer. The great monuments, arches, columns, basilicas, stand silent and patient, their grandeur undimmed by the absence of crowds. They have seen countless dawns like this one. They will see countless more. High above on the Palatine Hill, the grand villas sit serene and still. Their gardens are beginning to stir with the first bird song, delicate trills that rise and fall in gentle conversation. Within the walls of these estates, the household begins its quiet choreography. A slave rises from a narrow pallet, stretching stiff limbs before stepping into the dim corridor. Another kindles a small fire in the kitchen, coaxing flames from embers that have smoldered through the night. The scent of burning wood mixes with the cool morning air. Water is drawn from a cistern, poured into clay vessels, set aside for washing and cooking. Everything moves slowly, deliberately, as if the morning itself insists on patience. Below, in the crowded insulae that line the narrow streets, life begins with less ceremony, but no less care. These towering apartment blocks, stacked high and dense, house Rome's working masses. Their walls are thin, their rooms small and shared. Here, the morning is a symphony of soft sounds, creaking floors, hushed voices, the shuffle of feet on wooden stairs. A mother rises first, wrapping herself in a worn tunic before waking her children with a gentle touch. A baker in the ground floor shop below begins his work in darkness, kneading dough with strong, practiced hands. The rhythmic slap of dough against stone becomes a kind of lullaby, steady and grounding. The smell of baking bread, warm and yeasty, begins to drift upward through the building, weaving into the dreams of those still sleeping. The baker's hands move with the certainty of ritual, pressing and folding, working the dough until it becomes smooth and elastic. He has done this every morning for as long as he can remember, and his body knows the work without thought. The oven, heated through the night, radiates a gentle warmth that fills the small shop. He slides the first loaves onto the hot stone floor of the oven with a long wooden peel, and the dough begins to transform. rising, browning, releasing that incomparable scent that signals the true beginning of the Roman day.
Across the city, in a modest domus, tucked along a quieter lane, a patrician family stirs. The atrium is bathed in soft, indirect light, filtering through the impluvium above. The shallow pool below that catches the light, rippling gently as a servant passes by. The master of the house rises from his bed, his feet finding the cool mosaic floor. The tiles beneath him tell a story. Neptune with his trident, dolphins leaping through stylized waves, all rendered in tiny stones of blue and white and gold. He has walked across this floor 1,000 times, but this morning, as every morning, he pauses for just a moment to appreciate the craftsmanship, the beauty that surrounds him even in the most ordinary moments.
He moves to the household shrine, the lararium, where small statues of the household gods stand in watchful stillness. The figures are modest but carefully maintained, the lares in their dancing poses, the genius of the paterfamilias, the penates who protect the family's stores. Fresh flowers from yesterday still sit in a small vase, their petals beginning to curl at the edges. He offers a quiet prayer, a whispered gratitude for the night past and the day to come. This ritual is simple, unhurried, as natural as breathing. It grounds him, connects him to something older than himself, to the generations who came before and the generations who will follow. His wife joins him moments later, her stola draped gracefully over one shoulder, held in place by delicate fibulae of bronze. Her hair is still loose, cascading down her back in dark waves that will soon be arranged into an elaborate style by her servant. Together they stand in silence, honoring the gods who protect their home. When the prayer is finished, she places a hand on his arm, a gesture so familiar it requires no words. They move together toward the kitchen, where the day's first meal is being prepared. In the kitchen, a cook prepares a modest morning meal: bread, cheese, olives, perhaps a little honey. The ingredients are laid out with care on a wooden table, worn smooth by years of use. A knife cuts through a loaf with a soft, satisfying sound. Olive oil gleams golden in a small dish caught in a shaft of early light. The meal is humble, but it is prepared with respect, with attention. This is not a hurried breakfast, not a meal consumed in distraction. It is a ritual, a way of beginning the day with intention. The family gathers, seated on simple stools around the table, and eats together in the quiet of early morning. Few words are spoken, but the silence is warm, companionable. The bread is good, the cheese sharp and crumbly, the olives briny and rich. Outside, the city is waking, but here, time moves gently, as if it knows there is no need to rush.
Elsewhere in the cramped quarters of an insula, a different rhythm unfolds. A weaver rises before the sun has fully crested the hills, her fingers already moving toward the loom that dominates the corner of her single room. The loom is her livelihood, her constant companion, and she greets it each morning like an old friend. The threads are thin and rough, dyed in muted shades of red and brown, using madder root and walnut husks. She works by the light of a small oil lamp, her movements practiced and sure. The loom creaks softly as she presses the shuttle through the warp, the sound becoming part of the morning's texture. This is her craft, and she tends to it with quiet dignity. Her husband, a laborer, prepares for a day of hard work. He wraps a worn cloak around his shoulders, its edges frayed but still serviceable. He ties his sandals with firm knots, checking the leather straps for signs of wear. He will spend the day on a construction site, hauling stone, mixing mortar, raising the walls of yet another monument to Rome's glory. The work is backbreaking, but it is steady, and it feeds his family. He kisses his wife's forehead, a brief but tender gesture, and steps out into the pale morning light. The streets are beginning to fill now, slowly, carefully, as Rome shakes off the night.
The narrow lanes come alive with the sound of shutters being lifted. One by one, wooden panels swing open on their hinges, revealing the interiors of shops and workshops. A cobbler emerges, yawning and stretching, his arms reaching toward the lightening sky. He sets out his tools: leather, awls, thread, wooden laths shaped to different sizes of feet. He arranges them on a low bench outside his door, a display that is both practical and inviting. His fingers are stained dark from the leather dyes, and his apron is marked with years of work. Next door, a potter opens his workshop, revealing rows of vessels drying on wooden shelves. Amphorae of various sizes stand in neat lines, waiting for the kiln. Smaller pieces, cups, bowls, oil lamps fill the lower shelves. Some are plain, functional, their surfaces unadorned. Others bear decorations, geometric patterns, images of gods, scenes from mythology applied with a careful hand. The potter nods to the cobbler, and they exchange a few words about the weather, about the night past, about nothing in particular. These small exchanges are part of the fabric of the neighborhood, threads that bind the community together. A fishmonger arrives at the market square, his cart laden with silvery fish, still damp from the Tiber's waters. He calls out softly, not yet shouting, his voice carrying through the morning hush like a song half remembered. The fish lie in neat rows, their scales catching the light, their eyes still bright. He has risen long before dawn to make his catch, and now he brings the river's bounty to the city. A few early shoppers approach, examining his wares with critical eyes, pressing the flesh to test for firmness, sniffing for freshness. He answers their unspoken questions with a nod, with confidence. His fish are good. He knows it, and soon they know it too. The city is assembling itself. Piece by piece, moment by moment, each small act contributing to the whole. A water carrier makes his rounds, his back bent under the weight of 2 full amphorae suspended from a wooden yoke across his shoulders. He stops at designated fountains to refill, the water splashing musically into his vessels. He will deliver to homes without their own cisterns, climbing narrow stairs to pour the precious liquid into storage jars. His work is essential, though often invisible, part of the network of labor that keeps Rome functioning.
In the bathhouses, the fires are stoked early, heating the water that will fill the great pools. The furnace keepers work in the hypocaust, the space beneath the floors where the heating system resides. They feed wood into the flames, adjusting the flow of heat, ensuring that the temperature will be perfect for the bathers who will arrive later. Steam begins to rise, curling upward into the cool air, mingling with the scent of burning wood and damp stone. The attendants move through the rooms with quiet efficiency, sweeping floors with bundled twigs, arranging towels in neat stacks, preparing oils scented with rose and lavender, and setting out strigils, the curved bronze tools used to scrape away sweat and dirt.
The hypocaust system hums with warmth beneath the floors, a hidden heartbeat that pulses through the building. This ingenious network of channels and voids allows hot air to circulate, warming the rooms above with an even, gentle heat. It is one of Rome's great innovations, a marriage of engineering and comfort that has made the bathhouse culture possible. The floors are warm to the touch, the walls radiate gentle heat, and the entire space becomes an invitation to relax, to linger, to enjoy.
This place, soon to be filled with voices and laughter, now rests in serene anticipation, waiting for the day to unfold. The pools are still, their surfaces mirror smooth, reflecting the vaulted ceilings above. The changing rooms are empty, the benches bare, the exercise yards outside are quiet, their sand raked smooth from yesterday's activities. Soon these spaces will transform, but for now, they exist in a state of perfect readiness, like an orchestra, tuned and waiting for the conductor's signal.
The temples too are waking. Priests arrive at the sanctuaries, unlocking great bronze doors that swing open with a low, resonant groan. The sound echoes through the porticos, announcing the beginning of the sacred day. Inside, the air is cool and still, heavy with incense and age. The smell is distinctive: myrrh, frankincense, cedar, layers of scent built up over years of daily offerings. Altars are prepared, offerings laid out, wine and silver libation bowls, grain in woven baskets, small cakes of bread marked with sacred symbols. The priests move with reverence, their steps deliberate, their gestures precise. This is sacred work, performed in the sacred time of dawn, when the boundary between the human and the divine feels thinner, more permeable. The statues of the gods, towering and solemn, gaze down upon these preparations with an expression that is neither kind nor harsh, but eternal. Jupiter, king of gods, with his thunderbolt; Juno, his consort, crowned and majestic; Mars, god of war, armed and alert; Venus, goddess of love, beautiful beyond mortal comprehension. Each deity has their place, their purpose, their power. The Romans do not worship from a distance. They engage with their gods, make bargains, seek favor, offer thanks. The relationship is reciprocal, contractual, deeply embedded in the structure of daily life. A young acolyte enters carrying fresh flowers, roses, lilies, sprigs of myrtle. He arranges them carefully around the altar, his movements tentative, reverent. This is his first week in service, and everything still feels charged with significance, with mystery. The senior priest watches with patient eyes, ready to correct if necessary, but the boy is doing well. He has the right attitude, the right respect. Perhaps he will make a good priest someday, carrying on the traditions, maintaining the connection between Rome and the powers that watch over it.
As the sun rises higher, the streets begin to fill in earnest. The soft shuffle of sandals becomes a steady rhythm, punctuated by the creak of carts and the occasional bray of a donkey. The first wagons of the day roll through the streets. They are only allowed within the city during certain hours, and the drivers make the most of this window. They haul goods from the countryside, from the ports, from the workshops on the city's outskirts, grain sacks, wine amphorae, building materials, bolts of cloth, all the materials that keep Rome fed, clothed, and growing.
Merchants call out their wares, their voices layered one over another in a kind of informal chorus. Fresh bread, ripe figs, salted fish, olives glistening in oil, honey thick and golden, dates imported from Africa, spices from the east. The scents mingle and shift with the breeze, creating a tapestry of smells that is unmistakably Roman. The air itself becomes a message, telling stories of trade routes and conquered territories, of an empire that draws the world's riches into its heart. Children dart between the crowds, their laughter bright and quick, their bare feet slapping against the stone. They play games that have been played for generations, knucklebones, hoop rolling, tag. They are quick and nimble, dodging adults with practiced ease, their world one of movement and discovery. A boy chases a leather ball, calling to his friends. A girl pulls a toy cart, its wheels clicking over the uneven pavement. Their energy is infectious, a reminder that Rome is not just an empire, not just a political entity, but a living community where families grow and children play. A woman balances a basket on her hip, moving with the easy grace of someone who has walked these streets 1,000 times. Inside the basket are her morning's purchases. Bread still warm, a small fish wrapped in cloth, a bunch of herbs tied with string. She knows exactly where she is going, the most efficient route through the maze of streets and alleys. She exchanges greetings with neighbors, pauses to admire a baby held by a proud mother, comments on the quality of a vendor's fruit. These small interactions are the connective tissue of urban life, the bonds that make a city more than just a collection of strangers. An old man sits on a low wall, watching the world pass by, his eyes half closed against the morning light. He has lived through much, wars, plagues, political upheavals, and he has the long perspective that comes with age. He sees patterns where younger people see only chaos. He notices the cycles, the way history repeats itself in new forms. People nod to him respectfully as they pass. He is a fixture of the neighborhood, a living link to the past, a repository of memory.
The city is awake now, fully and completely, but the transition has been so gradual, so gentle that it feels less like waking and more like a slow unfurling. Rome does not jolt into life, it eases into it like a great and ancient creature stretching after a long rest. The light is warmer now, golden and forgiving, spilling into courtyards and alleyways, illuminating the textures of the city. Rough brick, smooth marble, weathered wood, shadows grow shorter, sharper, defining the edges of things with quiet clarity. In the homes of the wealthy, the day's plans are being laid. Slaves move through the rooms with practiced efficiency, dusting statues with soft cloths, sweeping floors with imported brooms, arranging cushions on couches. The household is a complex organism, and it requires constant tending. Each slave has their role, their responsibilities, and the work proceeds with the smoothness of long practice. The master consults with his steward in the tablinum, the office where business is conducted. They discuss matters of business, of land, of politics. Several of the master's farms are ready for harvest, and arrangements must be made for laborers, for storage, for transport to market. His voice is measured, calm, the voice of a man accustomed to authority. He speaks and expects to be heard, to be obeyed. The steward listens, nods, makes notes on a wax tablet with a bronze stylus. His handwriting is neat and practiced. He was trained from youth for this role, and he takes pride in his efficiency. He asks clarifying questions when necessary, offers suggestions when appropriate, but always with deference, always aware of the hierarchy.
Nearby, the mistress of the house speaks with the cook, planning the evening's meal. They will be entertaining guests, a senator and his wife, a few close friends, and the meal must be impressive without being ostentatious. Her tone is firm, but not harsh. She knows what she wants, and she expects it to be done well. She discusses the menu in detail, a first course of eggs, seafood and salads, a main course of roasted meats, game birds, and elaborate sauces, a dessert of honeyed fruits and pastries. The cook nods, mentally calculating ingredients, timing, presentation. This is her domain, and she manages it with the same care and precision that her husband applies to his affairs. In the smaller homes, life is less formal, but no less intentional. A mother combs her daughter's hair, working through tangles with patient fingers, weaving it into a simple braid. The girl sits patiently on a low stool, gazing out the window at the street below, where a vendor is selling ribbons and small trinkets from a tray hung around his neck. She watches him call out his wares, watches the occasional buyer stop to examine his goods. She dreams, perhaps, of owning one of those pretty ribbons, of wearing it in her hair on a festival day. A father mends a sandal, his hands moving deftly, tying new leather straps with firm knots. The sandal has served him well, and he is not ready to replace it. The Romans are practical people, not given to waste. Things are mended, repaired, made to last. He tests the knot, tugs on the strap to ensure it is secure. Satisfied, he sets it aside and picks up the other sandal, examining it for similar wear.
A grandmother sits in a corner, spinning wool, her fingers moving in a rhythm so practiced it seems almost automatic. The distaff rests in the crook of her arm, and she draws out the fibers with steady pulls, twisting them into thread. The spindle wool spins and bounces at the end of the growing thread, its weight providing the tension that creates an even yarn. She hums softly to herself, a tune without words, a melody passed down through generations, perhaps from her own grandmother. The sound is soothing, rhythmic, part of the household's daily music.
The streets continue to fill. The broad avenues are now alive with movement, a slow but steady current of humanity flowing toward the heart of the city. People walk with purpose, but they are not hurried. There's no frantic energy here, no sense of urgency. Rome operates on a different rhythm, one that values presence over speed, ritual over efficiency. A senator, flanked by attendants and clients, moves through the crowd with a quiet dignity. His toga is pristine white, its folds arranged with care according to tradition. The toga is not an easy garment to wear. It requires skill to drape properly, and it must be maintained throughout the day. But it is the mark of a Roman citizen, particularly of the elite, and he wears it with pride. He acknowledges greetings with a slight nod, a measured smile. People part for him, showing respect for his rank and position. He is seen and he knows it. This public visibility is part of his role, part of how power operates in Rome. To be important is to be visible, to move through the city with an entourage, to be greeted and deferred to. His clients follow him, hopeful for favor, for assistance, for the social and economic support that patronage provides. This is the ancient system of reciprocal obligation that structures Roman society. The patron provides protection and advancement. The client provides loyalty and political support.
A soldier off duty walks with a friend, their conversation low and easy, punctuated by the occasional laugh. They have served together on the frontier, seen battle, shared the boredom and terror of military life. Now they enjoy the simple pleasure of peace, of walking through Rome's streets without armor, without the weight of weapons. They stop at a street vendor, purchasing cups of watered wine from a large amphora set in a counter. The wine is cheap and slightly sour, but cold and they drink it slowly, leaning against a wall, watching the city move around them. The markets are beginning to hum with real activity now. Stalls are arranged in orderly rows, their surfaces covered with goods, pottery in various sizes and styles, cloth in different weaves and colors, leather goods ranging from sandals to belts to satchels, bronze tools gleaming in the light, glass beads catching and refracting sunlight and rainbow sparkles. The vendors stand behind their wares, calling out to passers-by, offering samples, striking bargains. This is their livelihood, and they are skilled at it, reading customers with practiced eyes, knowing when to press and when to give space.
A woman examines a length of fabric, running her fingers over the weave, testing its quality. She holds it up to the light, checking for flaws, for inconsistencies in the thread. The vendor watches her with patient eyes, waiting, knowing that a good customer takes her time. She is discerning, which means she will pay fairly for quality. The woman nods, satisfied with what she sees, and the transaction is made with a few coins exchanged and a murmured thanks. The vendor measures out the fabric, cuts it cleanly, and folds it into a neat package. Nearby, a farmer's cart is piled high with vegetables, onions with their papery skins, leeks with soil still clinging to their roots, cabbages round and heavy, turnips purple-topped and crisp. A buyer haggles over the price, gesturing expressively, shaking his head, appealing to the gods as witnesses to this outrageous cost. The farmer remains unmoved, arms crossed, stating his price with stolid certainty. Both know this is part of the dance, the negotiation that is expected, almost required. Eventually, they reach an agreement, splitting the difference as both knew they would from the beginning. The vegetables are loaded into a basket, carried off to some kitchen where they will be transformed into a meal. The city's heartbeat is steady now, strong and sure. Rome is fully awake, fully itself, moving through the day with the confidence of an empire that knows its place in the world. The morning rituals are complete, the household set, the streets alive. The day has begun, and it stretches ahead with a kind of unhurried inevitability, a certainty that each moment will unfold exactly as it should. In the Forum, the great open space that serves as the city's center, the morning light spills across the paving stones with a soft, even glow. This vast plaza, surrounded by temples, basilicas, and monuments, is the political, economic, and social heart of Rome. Here, empires are debated, laws are passed, justice is administered, and the pulse of public life beats strongest. The monuments stand tall and serene, their marble surfaces gleaming faintly. The rostra, the speaker's platform, waits in silence for the voices that will soon fill the air with debate and decree. It is adorned with the bronze prows of captured ships, symbols of Rome's naval victories, reminders that this city's power extends far beyond these 7 hills. The temples that line the forum's edges are already receiving their first visitors, men and women who come to pray, to offer, to seek favor from the gods. The temple of Saturn, ancient and revered, stands with its columns weathered by centuries. The temple of Vesta, circular and unique, houses the sacred fire that must never be allowed to die, tended by the Vestal virgins. The temple of Castor and Pollux rises on its high platform, its steps worn smooth by countless feet. Each temple is a world unto itself, a space carved out from the ordinary, dedicated to the divine. The basilica, with its grand columns and echoing halls, is beginning to fill with the murmur of legal proceedings. advocates in togas prepare their arguments, consulting with clients, reviewing documents. The Roman legal system is complex and sophisticated, and these men have spent years mastering its intricacies. They speak with rhetorical skill, invoking precedent and statute, appealing to logic and emotion. The courts are public, and small crowds gather to watch particularly interesting cases, learning about the law, observing the theater of justice. But this is not a space of noise or chaos. Even at its busiest, the Forum retains a kind of stately calm, a sense of order that comes from centuries of use, of ritual, of tradition. People move through it with respect, aware that they are walking on ground that is more than just physical space. It is symbolic, sacred, central to the identity of Rome itself. Every stone has witnessed history. Every column has stood through triumph and tragedy. The Forum is memory made solid, tradition made visible. A young boy, trailing behind his father, gazes up at the towering columns with wide eyes, trying to comprehend their scale. They seem impossibly tall, impossibly grand, reaching toward the sky like the limbs of giants. His father places a hand on his shoulder, guiding him forward, murmuring something the boy does not quite understand, but will remember all his life. Perhaps he speaks of duty, of citizenship, of the weight and privilege of being Roman. Perhaps he simply names the monuments, teaching his son to read the city, to understand its language of stone and symbol.
Around the edges of the Forum, scribes set up small folding tables, offering their services to those who cannot write. They sit on portable stools, their styluses and tablets ready, their expressions businesslike but patient. An old woman approaches one, speaking in a low voice. She wants to send a letter to her son, who serves with the legions in distant Britannia. The scribe nods, dips his stylus in wax, and begins to write as she dictates, capturing her words with practiced efficiency.
Money changers arrange their scales and coin boxes ready for the day's transactions. Rome's economy is complex, with currency flowing in from all corners of the empire. These specialists can identify coins by weight and purity, can exchange denarii for sesterces, can facilitate trade between merchants who deal in different standards. They sit beneath the shade of porticos, their sharp eyes missing nothing, their fingers nimble and quick. The artisans are at work now, their hands shaping the materials of the city. In a workshop near the Via Sacra, a potter sits at his wheel, his foot pressing the pedal in a steady rhythm. The wheel spins, a blur of motion, and the clay rises and falls under his touch, forming itself into a vessel, smooth, symmetrical, purposeful. His eyes are focused, his movements precise. He can feel the clay responding, can sense when it is the right consistency, when it is centered properly. This is not labor, it is craft. It is the marriage of material and skill, of vision and execution.
He has been a potter since childhood, when his father first placed his small hands on wet clay and showed him how to coax it into form. Now his own son sweeps the workshop floor, watching and learning, absorbing the lessons that will one day make him a potter in his turn. The wheel stops, and the potter carefully lifts the finished vessel, placing it on a shelf to dry. Already he is pulling another lump of clay from the pile, weighing it in his hands, preparing to begin again.
Nearby, a scribe hunches over a wax tablet, his stylus moving in careful strokes. He is copying a text, perhaps a legal document, perhaps a poem, perhaps a treatise on agriculture. Each letter is formed with attention, each line spaced with care. The work is slow, meticulous, but there is satisfaction in it, a quiet pride in the act of preservation. In a world without printing, every copy must be made by hand, and the scribes are the keepers of knowledge, the transmitters of culture.
His workspace is simple: a table, a stool, good light from a window. Tablets are stacked neatly to one side, waiting to be filled. A pot of ink sits ready for work that will be transferred to papyrus or parchment. His fingers are stained with ink and wax, marked by his profession. He pauses occasionally to flex his hand, to rest his eyes, to read back what he has written and check for errors. Accuracy is paramount. A mistake in a legal document could have serious consequences. A mistake in a literary text corrupts the author's words. In another part of the city, a blacksmith works at his forge, the air around him thick with heat and the sharp scent of metal. The forge roars as his apprentice works the bellows, pumping air into the coals until they glow white hot. The blacksmith retrieves a piece of iron from the flames with long tongs, places it on the anvil, and begins to strike it with his hammer. The hammer rings against the anvil in a steady rhythmic beat, a sound that echoes through the narrow street. Sparks fly with each strike, brief flashes of light that fade as quickly as they appear. He is shaping a blade, heating and hammering, drawing out the metal, refining its form until it takes the shape he desires. His face is streaked with soot, his arms strong and scarred from years of work. The muscles in his shoulders bunch and release with each hammer blow. This is hard work, demanding work, but he moves through it with the ease of long practice. He knows his craft, and his craft knows him. He can read the color of the metal, can tell by the sound of the hammer whether the iron is at the right temperature, whether it is responding properly. When the rough shape is complete, he plunges the blade into a trough of water. Steam explodes upward with a violent hiss, and the metal cools and hardens. He examines his work critically, running a thumb along the edge, checking the straightness, the balance. There is more work to be done, grinding, polishing, sharpening, fitting a handle, but the essential form is there. From formless metal, he has created something useful, something that will endure. The city's labor is everywhere, visible and invisible. Builders raise walls of brick and stone, their movements coordinated, their voices calling out instructions and encouragement. A foreman directs the work, pointing here and there, checking plumb lines and levels. Workers haul baskets of mortar up scaffolding, pour it into forms, set bricks in neat courses. The work is physically demanding, but there is pride in it too, in seeing a structure rise from nothing, in knowing that their labor contributes to Rome's eternal skyline.
Masons carve inscriptions into marble, their chisels tapping in a steady rhythm that sounds almost musical. Each letter must be perfect, each line straight and even. They work from carefully drawn guidelines, following the design with precision. This inscription will outlast them, will be read by people not yet born, will carry its message across generations. The responsibility of that permanence weighs on them, inspires them to excellence. Weavers work at their looms, threads crossing and recrossing in patterns passed down through generations. The clack and thump of the loom creates its own rhythm, a heartbeat that measures the day. Slowly, patiently, the cloth emerges, plain or patterned, rough or fine, each piece representing hours of labor. Some will become tunics and stolas. Others will be household linens. Still others will be sold to merchants who will ship them to distant provinces. Tanners work hides in great vats, the smell pungent and sharp, the work messy but necessary. They scrape and soak and treat the leather, transforming raw animal skins into supple, useful material. The smell is offensive to many, and tanneries are relegated to the edges of the city, but the work is essential. Rome needs leather for sandals, for belts, for armor, for harnesses, for countless everyday items. The tanners endure the smell and the difficult conditions, knowing their craft has value.
Each trade, each craft, each skill contributes to the functioning of the city, and each is performed with a kind of quiet dignity, a recognition that work done well is its own reward. Rome is built on labor, not just the dramatic labor of conquest and construction, but the everyday labor of making and mending, of feeding and clothing, of maintaining the infrastructure of civilization.
As the morning deepens into midday, the pace of the city shifts subtly. The urgency of the early hours gives way to a softer rhythm, a sense that there is time to pause, to rest, to enjoy. The heat begins to rise, the sun climbing higher, casting shorter shadows. The air shimmers slightly over the paving stones. People seek shade under porticos, in gardens, beneath the spreading branches of ancient trees. The bathhouses begin to fill, their pools inviting and cool, their steam rooms warm and soothing. Men and women arrive at the baths, shedding their cloaks and tunics in the changing rooms, handing them to attendants who will guard them. They step naked or lightly draped into the complex, moving through the rooms in the traditional progression. The bathhouse is one of Rome's great social institutions, a place where class distinctions blur slightly, where senator and shopkeeper share the same pools, breathe the same steam, enjoy the same pleasures.
In the caldarium, the hot room, steam rises in thick clouds, obscuring the figures within. The air is almost too hot to breathe, opening the lungs, drawing sweat from every pore. Voices echo softly, conversations drifting in and out of hearing. Men discuss business, politics, gossip. Women share news, advice, laughter. A man leans back against the warm marble wall, his eyes closed, his mind wandering. The heat is intense but cleansing, drawing out the tensions and toxins of the body. Another scrapes his skin with a strigil, removing sweat and oil in long, smooth strokes. The curved bronze tool moves efficiently across his skin, leaving it clean and tingling. In the tepidarium, the warm room, the temperature is more moderate, more comfortable. People linger here, talking, relaxing, adjusting to the temperature changes. Some receive massages from skilled attendant, strong hands kneading tired muscles, working out knots and tightness. The scent of oils, rose, lavender, almond fills the air. Others simply sit, enjoying the pleasant warmth, the sense of deep relaxation that the baths provide. In the frigidarium, the cold plunge, a woman gasps as she enters the water, her breath catching in her throat. The shock is brief but intense, the cold water causing her skin to contract, her heart to race. Then the sensation shifts to exhilaration, to a tingling aliveness that spreads through her entire body. She emerges laughing, her skin flushed, her spirits lifted. The contrast between hot and cold is therapeutic, invigorating, part of the bath's appeal. The baths are a refuge, a place where the outside world recedes, where time slows to the rhythm of breath and water here, people are bodies first, warm, tired, hungry for comfort. The social hierarchies that structure Roman life are present but muted. The naked or nearly naked body is a great equalizer. Conversation flows more freely. Relationships form and deepen. Business deals are struck in the pools. Friendships are cemented in the steam. Romances begin with a glance across the water. In the gardens, the world is green and quiet, a different kind of sanctuary. Fountains murmur softly, their water trickling over stone in a sound that is almost hypnotic. The play of water creates its own microclimate, cooling the air, adding moisture, creating an island of freshness in the heat of the day. Roses bloom in neat rows, their scent heavy and sweet, almost narcotic in its intensity. Boxwood hedges are trimmed into geometric shapes, a testament to the Roman love of order imposed on nature. Statues stand among the greenery, their marble forms cool and smooth to the touch. Gods and heroes, captured in moments of action or repose, gaze sightlessly over the garden paths. Some are masterworks, imported from Greece or carved by the finest Roman sculptors. Others are more modest, copies or provincial work, but no less loved by those who placed them here. Each statue tells a story, embodies a myth, connects the garden to the larger world of Roman culture. A man sits on a marble bench, reading a scroll, his lips moving silently as he traces the words with his finger. He is reading philosophy, perhaps Cicero, perhaps a Greek text in translation. The garden provides the perfect environment for contemplation, for the life of the mind. The beauty around him inspires thought, encourages reflection. He reads slowly, pausing frequently to consider what he has read, to connect it to his own experience.
Nearby, a couple walks arm in arm, their steps slow and unhurried, their conversations soft. They have been married for many years, and they move together with the unconscious coordination of long intimacy. They do not need to fill every silence with words. Sometimes they simply walk, enjoying the garden, enjoying each other's presence. She points out a particularly beautiful rose, and he pauses to admire it with her. These moments of shared appreciation are part of what binds them together, small deposits in the account of their shared life. This is a place for contemplation, for peace, for the cultivation of beauty. The Romans understand the value of such spaces, the need for balance between the demands of public life and the quietude of private reflection. The garden is not just decoration, it is therapy, philosophy made tangible, a statement about what makes life worth living.
The temples continue to receive their visitors throughout the day, though the flow is gentler now, more measured. Inside, the air is cool and dim, a welcome respite from the heat outside. The thick stone walls keep the temperature constant, creating a microclimate that feels separate from the world beyond. A woman kneels before an altar, her hands folded, her head bowed. She prays for her family, for health, for protection from misfortune. Her words are whispered, meant only for the ears of the gods. She has brought an offering, a small cake, a few coins, which she places on the altar with reverent care.
A priest moves through the sanctuary, tending to the eternal flame that burns in its sacred brazier, adjusting offerings that have been placed throughout the day, ensuring that all is as it should be. He moves with the unhurried grace of someone performing a ritual so familiar it has become second nature. He checks that the flame has sufficient oil, that the altar is properly arranged, that the sacred space maintains its dignity and order. The gods are ever present in Roman life, woven into the fabric of daily existence. They are not distant or abstract. They are here now, watching, listening, influencing. To honor them is not a burden, but a comfort, a way of acknowledging that there are forces greater than oneself, forces that deserve respect and reverence. Every journey begins with a prayer to Mercury. Every meal acknowledges Ceres. Every battle invokes Mars. The gods are partners in the Roman enterprise, divine patrons whose favor must be maintained through proper ritual and sacrifice.
In the household shrines scattered throughout the city, similar rituals unfold throughout the day. A father places a small offering of wine before the images of his ancestors, murmuring a prayer for their continued favor. The ancestor masks, kept in special cabinets, gaze out with the faces of those who came before, grandfathers, great grandfathers, the founders of the family line. Their presence is palpable, a reminder that the family extends backward and forward through time, that each generation is merely a link in an unbroken chain. A mother lights a lamp before the Lares, the protective spirits of the home, asking them to watch over her children. She speaks to them as one would speak to old friends, with familiarity and affection. The Lares have always protected this household, and they always will, as long as they are honored and remembered. These are small acts, private acts, but they are essential. They connect the living to the dead, the mortal to the divine, the present to the past. They are reminders that life is not lived in isolation, but in a continuum, a chain that stretches back through time and forward into the future.
As the afternoon wears on, the city begins to prepare for evening. The markets start to wind down, vendors packing up their unsold goods, sweeping their stalls, counting the day's earnings. Some have done well, their purses heavy with coins. Others have had a lean day and worry about making ends meet. The market cycle is unpredictable, subject to supply and whim and season. But tomorrow will bring another chance, another morning, another market day.
The streets grow quieter, the crowds thinning as people return to their homes. Shops close, shutters are lowered, doors are locked. The city's energy shifts from public to private, from the streets to the homes. In kitchens across Rome, preparations for the evening meal begin. Fires are kindled in hearths and braziers, coaxing flames from banked coals or striking fresh sparks with flint and steel. Pots are set over flames, water is heated, ingredients are laid out on tables. The smells of cooking begin to fill the air, roasting meat, simmering stew, freshly baked bread. These are comforting smells, the smells of home, of sustenance, of care. In a patrician home, the evening meal is an elaborate affair requiring hours of preparation. Slaves move through the triclinium, the dining room, arranging the three couches that give the room its name. They place cushions for comfort, adjust the angles for optimal conversation. The table is positioned in the center, within easy reach of all the diners. It is laid with vessels of silver and bronze, polished until they gleam, reflecting the light of oil lamps. Fine glassware, imported at great expense, catches and refracts the light. The cook works in the kitchen with focused intensity, coordinating multiple dishes, timing everything so that food arrives hot and fresh. The menu is ambitious. A first course of eggs prepared in various styles, shellfish, and elaborate salads, a main course of roasted fowl stuffed with herbs and nuts, fish and rich garum-based sauces, vegetables dressed in olive oil and vinegar, honeyed cakes studded with pine nuts. For dessert, there will be fresh fruits, dates, figs, and pastries dripping with honey. The meal is designed to impress, to demonstrate the host's wealth and taste, to cement social and political relationships.
The master of the house reclines on his couch, his guests arranged around him, according to a carefully planned order that reflects social hierarchies and the evening's conversational goals. They are dressed in their finest tunics and stolas, jewelry glinting in the lamplight. Slaves circulate, pouring wine, presenting dishes, removing empty plates. The wine is mixed with water in a large crater, the proportions adjusted to taste. Some prefer it strong, others diluted. The conversation flows easily, touching on politics, philosophy, gossip, the events of the day.
One guest, a senator, shares news from the latest session of the Senate. Another, a merchant, describes the arrival of a ship from Egypt bearing exotic goods. A third guest, a poet, recites some of his recent work, and the others listen with varying degrees of genuine interest. The meal is not just about food, it is a social ritual, a way of reinforcing bonds, of displaying status, of enjoying the pleasures of life. This is what civilization means to the Romans: good food, good wine, good conversation, shared with friends in beautiful surroundings.
In a more modest household, the evening meal is simpler but no less meaningful. A family gathers around a low table, seated on stools or cushions on the floor. The room is small, the furnishings basic but clean and well maintained. The food is plain: bread, cheese, olives, a pot of lentil stew, flavored with herbs from a window box. There is no imported glass, no silver platters, but there is warmth and there is love.
A father tears bread and passes it to his children, who accept it with murmured thanks. The simple act of breaking bread together carries profound meaning. It is communion. It is family. It is the foundation of society. A mother ladles stew into wooden bowls, making sure everyone has enough, taking the smallest portion for herself, as mothers always do. The children eat hungrily, their faces animated as they tell stories of their day. One describes a game played in the street, another reports on the arrival of a new family in the building. The parents listen, ask questions, smile at the enthusiasm of youth.
There is laughter, teasing, the easy warmth of people who know each other well, who love each other despite and because of their familiarity. The meal is a time to come together, to share not just food, but presence, to reconnect after the day's labors. It is a daily ritual that grounds the family, that reminds them of what matters most. When the meal is finished, the mother collects the bowls, the father wipes the table, and the children are sent to prepare for bed. The domestic choreography continues, each person knowing their role, each small task contributing to the functioning of the household. As the sun descends toward the horizon, the city begins to glow with a softer light. The marble buildings catch the golden rays, reflecting them back in a warm amber hue that makes the entire city seem touched by divine favor. Shadows lengthen, stretching across the streets, pooling in doorways and alleys. The air cools gradually, the oppressive heat of midday dissipating, replaced by a gentle breeze that carries the scent of flowers and smoke, of cooking food and distant water. The sky shifts from blue to shades of pink and orange and lavender, a slow gradient that transforms the heavens into a canvas of color. The first stars appear, faint at first, shy pinpricks of light in the deepening blue. As the darkness grows, they gain confidence, shining brighter until the sky is scattered with them, like grain spilled across dark cloth. The Romans know these stars, have given them names and stories. They are navigational aids, seasonal markers, characters in the great myths that structure Roman understanding of the cosmos. The constellation of Ursa Major wheels overhead. Orion will rise later, the hunter with his belt and sword. Venus, the evening star, blazes in the west, herald of night. In the streets, oil lamps are lit one by one, their flames flickering softly behind glass or thin scraped horns panes that protect the flame from the breeze while allowing the light to shine through. They cast small circles of light, creating pockets of warmth in the gathering dusk. The quality of light changes everything. Edges soften, colors deepen, the city transforms. What was solid and factual in daylight becomes mysterious, suggestive. In the forgiving glow of lamplight, people move more slowly now, their voices quieter, their steps more deliberate. The energy of the day has ebbed, replaced by a different mood, reflective, peaceful, almost dreamlike. The city settles into its evening rhythms, the transition from day to night, a gradual fade rather than a sudden shift. A musician plays a flute on a street corner, the melody simple and haunting, drifting through the evening air like smoke. The notes rise and fall, minor and melancholic, speaking of longing and memory. A few people stop to listen, standing in the shadows, their faces half lit by lamplight, moved by beauty they cannot quite articulate. In the homes, lamps are lit as well, casting a soft glow over domestic scenes. A woman sits by a window, her hands busy with embroidery, her needle flashing in the lamplight. She is creating a scene, perhaps a garden, perhaps a mythological tableau, building it stitch by careful stitch. Her eyes strain slightly in the dim light, but she is accustomed to it, and the work gives her pleasure. Each stitch is a small act of creation, a tiny contribution to beauty.
A man reads aloud to his children, their eyes wide as they listen to tales of heroes and gods. He reads from a scroll, his voice rising and falling dramatically, bringing the story to life. The children are rapt, transported to the world of the tale. When he reaches an exciting moment, they gasp. When danger threatens the hero, they lean forward anxiously. When the hero triumphs, they cheer. This is how culture is transmitted, how values are taught, how imagination is fed through stories shared in the warm circle of family. A grandmother rocks a baby, humming softly, the infant's eyes drooping with sleep. The melody is wordless but comforting, a sound the baby will associate with safety and love for the rest of their life. The grandmother's arms are practiced, her movements gentle and sure. She has held many babies, her own children now grown, and now her grandchildren. Each one is precious, each one a continuation of the family, a promise of the future. These are the quiet hours, the hours when the demands of the world recede, when the focus turns inward, toward family, toward rest, toward the simple comforts of home. The city's public face has been retired for the day. What remains is private, intimate, the Rome of individual lives rather than imperial grandeur. The city begins to settle, to draw in on itself. The streets empty progressively. The sounds fade, the lights dim. The great public buildings stand silent now, their doors locked for the night, their halls empty of voices. The forum is deserted, its vast paving stones cool under the night sky, reflecting starlight and the glow of the rising moon. The monuments cast long shadows, their forms dramatic and theatrical in the darkness. The temples are dark, their fires banked, their gods resting in their sanctuaries until morning calls them back to duty.
The markets are shuttered, wooden panels locked tight against potential thieves. The workshops are closed, tools put away, fires extinguished. The artisans have gone home, their day's work complete. Rome, which has been so alive, so vibrant, so full of motion and sound and energy, is now still. But it is not an empty stillness. It is a stillness rich with presence, with the accumulated energy of the day, with the knowledge that tomorrow will bring another dawn, another beginning.
The city breathes, even in sleep. Its heart continues to beat, slow and steady. The Tiber continues its eternal journey to the sea, its waters black and glossy under the stars, reflecting the lights of the city in wavering lines. The current moves with patient persistence, as it has for millennia, as it will for millennia more. The river is Rome's lifeline, bringing water and trade, carrying away waste, connecting the city to the wider world. Even at night, boats drift on its surface, their lanterns bobbing gently, fishermen pursuing their nocturnal craft. The hills rise against the night sky, their forms dark and solid, ancient foundations on which the city stands. The Palatine with its imperial palaces, the Capitoline with its temples, the Aventine, the Caelian, the Esquiline, the Viminal, the Quirinal, the seven hills that define Rome, that give it its topography and character. People have lived on these hills since before history, since before Rome was Rome, when it was only scattered villages of shepherds and farmers. The hills remember, though their human inhabitants may forget.
The air is cool now, almost cold, carrying the faint scent of dew beginning to form on grass and leaves. The temperature has dropped significantly from the heat of midday, and the city releases the warmth it absorbed from the sun, radiating it slowly into the night. This is the breathing of stone and brick, the city's exhalation after the long day.
In the insulae, the sounds of the day give way to the sounds of night, soft breathing, the creak of a bed frame, a baby's whimper quickly soothed, a murmured word between spouses. Families lie together in their small rooms, their bodies warm under thin blankets, their hearts at ease. The day is done, the work complete, and rest is earned and welcome. In the cramped quarters, people sleep deeply, exhausted by physical labor, by the demands of survival, by the simple fact of living. In the grand villas, the household retires to their various quarters, the hierarchy of space reflecting the hierarchy of status. The slaves return to their basic accommodations, small rooms or shared dormitories with minimal furnishings. They are tired too, perhaps more tired than anyone, but they find comfort where they can, in friendship, in the hope of eventual freedom, in the small pleasures allowed to them. The master and mistress retire to their comfortable cubiculum, the bedroom with its proper bed frame and stuffed mattress, its fine linens and wool blankets. They settle in, perhaps exchanging a few words about the day, perhaps simply grateful for the quiet and the rest.
The lamps are extinguished one by one, darkness reclaiming the rooms, a pinch of the wick, a breath to blow out the flame, and the light disappears, leaving only the faint smell of smoking oil. Outside, a dog barks once, a sharp sound in the stillness, then falls silent. A night watchman makes his rounds, his footsteps echoing softly through the empty streets, his lantern swinging gently at his side, casting moving shadows on the walls. He is vigilant, but not worried. Rome at night is generally peaceful, the dangers more imagined than real. The stars wheel overhead, ancient and indifferent, the same stars that have looked down on Rome since its founding, that will continue to look down long after its stones have crumbled to dust. They are the one constant, the eternal witnesses to human striving and achievement, to rise and fall, to glory and obscurity. The constellations turn slowly, marking the hours, marking the seasons, connecting this night to every night that has come before and every night that will come after.
But tonight, in this moment, Rome sleeps, and the stars are its only witnesses. The city is at rest, and it is beautiful in its rest, peaceful, complete, whole. There's a harmony to this moment, a sense that everything has found its proper place. The cycle is finished. The day has run its course from dawn through midday to evening, and now to night. Each phase has had its character, its tasks, its rhythms, and now all of that activity has resolved into stillness, into rest, into the restorative darkness that allows tomorrow to be born. Rome, the eternal city, drifts into its dreams. Perhaps it dreams of conquest of distant lands brought under its dominion. Perhaps it dreams of peace, of prosperity, of gardens and banquets and the laughter of children. Perhaps it dreams of its God walking among the streets, blessing the faithful, watching over their chosen people. Or perhaps it dreams nothing at all, simply rests in the fullness of itself, secure in its existence, confident in its continuance.
The night holds the city gently, like a mother holding a sleeping child, protective and tender. The darkness is not threatening, but comforting. A blanket drawn over the day's labors, a curtain closed on the day's dramas. The streets are empty, but not abandoned. The buildings are dark, but not lifeless. The city is here, always here, eternal and enduring, waiting for the dawn, for the moment when it will wake again and begin anew.
But for now, there is only this, the soft breath of the sleeping city, the quiet embrace of the night, the endless turning of the stars above. The Tiber whispers its way past the city's walls. A breeze rustles through the gardens, stirring leaves and flower petals. Somewhere an owl calls, its voice lonely and distant. These small sounds are the only ones that disturb the stillness, and they do not break it so much as emphasize it, define it by contrast. And in this stillness, in this peace, there is everything. There is the entirety of Roman life, the labor and the rest, the public and the private, the sacred and the mundane. There is history and continuity, tradition and innovation, power and vulnerability. There is the individual and the collective, the family and the empire, the moment and the eternal.
Rome sleeps, wrapped in night and memory and starlight, and the world turns slowly beneath the watching heavens, carrying the sleeping city through the darkness toward another dawn.